Hey y'all, how are you doing? I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. It's me, Kim, and I'm back for another newsletter exclusive podcast. Today, I want to talk about something that a few people have brought to my attention. We're going to talk about why the Blue Origin spaceflight represents the final nail in the coffin of performative celebrity feminism. I noticed maybe around when that Elle magazine cover started making the rounds on social media, a tone to the backlash. It's not just that people were like, ew, gross, like we don't want to see this. This doesn't make sense. Why do we care? It was the tone. And I wanted to spend some time working through why the girls are absolutely done. I was going to start this episode with a statistic. Maybe I was going to talk about how women's workforce participation still hasn't recovered since the pandemic, or how the gender wage gap hasn't budged in years. You know, something serious, because feminism is serious. I know that for the past, we'll say, decade, a lot of us have engaged feminism like it's just a fun time, but like there are real life or death issues at stake. And I wasn't particularly outraged about the rich ladies getting together to fly on the spacecraft into orbit for 11 minutes until I finally sat down to read the interview, or the joint interview that all of the women who went on the flight, they gave to Elle. And I came across this quote from Katy Perry. "We're going to put the ass in astronaut." I'm sorry, what? Oh my God. My neutrality was completely rocked by that. I've completely discarded it. I am anti the space flight. I have disdain for every single person who participated in this stunt. I am particularly disgusted with Katy Perry. One, you're 40. You're 40 fucking years old. I am sorry. Maybe this is going to come across as sexist, ageist. I don't know. But at some point, oh my God, I'm just a stupid girl with big boobs and I don't know anything. I just like pastels. It's not cute anymore. It's not cute. It's not tasteful. It's not campy in a fun way. It's embarrassing. Look around. Read the room. In an era where there is an intentional, aggressive assault on women in STEM, on the quote-unquote DEI programs that help get women into the pipeline and through these programs, where if anything bad happens at the FAA or at a university, they're gonna blame the women, they're gonna blame the blacks, they're gonna blame the people of color. That fake, ironic, oh, I'm just a girl, I'm just a bimbo incompetence is not funny. And I think I'm particularly outraged by this because I am a STEM adjacent girl. You know, sometimes I call myself a black woman in tech. You know, it's just a joke, but no. I know actual black women in tech. I know actual black women in science. I know actual black women in engineering. I don't know if I know any mathematicians, but the other ones, absolutely, multiple. And the horrors, because it's not just that I know people my age or people younger. I know women in their 60s who have been in these fields for decades, who can tell you about all of the shit. Hazing is not even a strong enough word. It's terror. And that's why I have been so pissed off, because I have heard the horror stories for decades. And so when we have the vapid performative feminists thinking it's so fun and funny to talk about eyelash extensions in space, my glam, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna put that ass in astronaut, bitch. You know they're coming after Title IX. Oh, I do not fuck with that shit at all. I am bone deep, soul level disgusted. Stop playing in our faces. You have unfathomable access. You have a microphone the size that most of us can never even imagine. And that's what you use it for. And I understand that Jeff Bezos is trying to be politically neutral because he don't want the federal government to come after Amazon the way they're coming after Instagram right now, or I should say Meta. But if you're not going to stand up and speak out, don't say anything. Just go up, do your little space flight, come on down. Don't try to use womanhood or inequality or feminism to try to validate your exploration in vanity. All right, so, I got to rant off really early. We're going to talk about what happens when feminism becomes corporatized, commodified, glamorized. It gets rich and it becomes empty. In these times, we just can't afford it. In a post-Dobbs America, we don't have time for play. Play is a distraction. I think girls are saying, look, do you see what's going on out here? Do you see it? You're either gonna pitch in or shut the fuck up. Don't tell me you're working on my behalf if you're not pitching in. Otherwise, get the fuck out of our face. The kind of light, fluffy, frothy feminism of the girl boss era was a luxury. We're not in that place anymore. Life's not looking so luxurious. So when was the time when we could afford it? Remember, I cite this all the time, so I'm sure you remember, when Beyonce at the VMAs, she stood up and had the big feminism thing behind her, and she used an audio clip of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. That was the peak lean-in feminism era. We were all celebrating Sheryl Sandberg. By the way, I was always anti-lean-in. I will always cite the NPR interview I did when I was a senior in college, where the host, was it Michelle Norris, asked, what does lean-in mean for the women at the starting line? And I was like, ew, I don't want to do that. I literally said that. Shout out to me. Shout out to consistency. I'm not going to play the audio again. I've played it. But yes, okay? When I was little baby Kimberly, that must have been, 12 years, 13 years, whatever. Because I always knew. So that is the benefit of having access to ambitious, successful women. I saw the toll. I was never under any impression that it was going to get what the TV shows promised, what the movies promised, what the magazines and the books promised. I always knew the women were not getting that. Being a corporate girl, not glamorous. But I can't say that I was completely impervious to the deluge of feminist light, feminist-ish marketing and branding that was all the rage 10, 15 years ago. I cite this book all the time because I think it's really important. We Were Feminists Once by Andy Zeisler, one of the founders of Bitch magazine. She does a bird's eye view, an overview of how feminism and branding and marketing collided over the past 40-ish years, we'll say. And it shows up in TV and movies. It shows up in the clothing, right? Like, do you have a futurist female t-shirt? It shows up in the toys. Barbie had a complete reimagining of the messaging, the branding around Barbie. In Dove ads, in Nike ads. I mean, it was everywhere. That is not a completely bad thing. I've said before, look, the girl boss feminism era was not perfect. Not by any stretch. It helped to normalize the idea that it's okay for women to seek power. The problem is, what a lot of people took from the girl boss feminism era is that power in and of itself is the win. That as soon as you get to the big fancy job or being a global superstar or building a very large, impressive platform or starring in the movie or writing a best-selling book, that like, you've done it. Feminism wins. I remember when every red carpet interviewer, or it felt like every red carpet interviewer or every magazine interviewer were asking all these celebrities, are you a feminist? How do you feel about feminism? What do you think? It was a big thing. And I understand that cultural hope, that wishful thinking, that if we saw enough women occupying visible positions of power, if we saw them running companies or directing movies, launching empires, then everyone in the world would become more comfortable with women being in charge. But not just that the women would be in charge, that they would be in charge and use the power, use the access to change things for the better. That we would slowly, surely soften the ground for gender equity by knowing that they exist, by internalizing the idea that we could do it, that we are powerful, that we are strong. And look, I'll be honest, I love a little inspiration porn. I do. I'm a really visual person. I love media. That's why I wanted to create media. So I understand the power of images. But there are many things images simply can't fix. And it didn't work like that. Power was not swept up and scattered around. It's shifted, but has power over the last, we'll say 25 years, been meaningfully redistributed? No, I think it's become hyper concentrated. In fact, I think you can see that if you look around the entertainment industry. Let me go off on this for a little bit. Something I think is so fascinating is entertainment, movies, TV, music. The biggest stars are not young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s. When you think about the number of movies Nicole Kidman, whom I love, is in every year, I'm like, oh my, yes, these vectors, these repositories of institutional power and visibility, I think there's a good argument that they are becoming actually more insular, more concentrated. Trickle-down feminism, like trickle-down economics, right? Trickle-down feminism turned out to be a myth. And everybody else is left outside the club because we can't get in. We were left watching. The other thing about celebrity feminism is not just what the feminists themselves do, the big celebrities, but it's also how we as audiences, as viewers, engage with what they do. What we choose to consume matters. Of course it does. And people love to try to let themselves off the hook with this. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism. But because we have a bias toward consistency, we want to make sure that every part of our identity and experience is consistent. So there was so much incentive during that time to try to paint just things that were light and fun and ultimately frivolous as feminism. There was a kind of a labored way that during the girlboss feminism era, everything had to be turned into, this is a radical act. This is a revolutionary act. This empowerment brunch is a revolutionary act. Like, yes, I'm supporting this female movie director. Bring on the revolution. Like, no, you guys. No, not quite. I want to support the women. I want to support the directors. I want to support the curators. I want to support the architects. But like, an act of support is not in and of itself a revolution. It's consumption. Okay, we can talk about the consumption thing at a different time. Let's move on. Wait, sorry. Let's go back a little bit. The Blue Origin spaceflight was organized by Lauren Sanchez, who is engaged to Jeff Bezos. And she's also a pilot. I think I remember reading somewhere that they meaning Jeff and Lauren, met because she is a pilot and Jeff Bezos met her at a party and then they went flying together or whatever. And you know, they got together when Jeff was still married. But hey, you didn't hear that from me. I mean, you know, a part of the reason why Jeff and Mackenzie eventually broke up is because he was cheating. So she's engaged to Jeff Bezos. She decided to organize the all-female crew for a flight on a rocket owned by Blue Origin. The women put on their best black garb and they appeared on the cover of Elle. And we were supposed to say, oh my God, women in space. I can't believe this. This is a huge step forward for women. Who cares if we don't have access to reproductive rights? Who cares if there are direct attacks on Title IX and the protections for women in academia? There's attacks on women in the workplace. Who cares? This is the moment. The crew for this flight included Katy Perry. She's a pop star. Gayle King, morning show host. Another lady was a film producer. There was an actual astronaut on there. While they briefly gestured, and I do mean briefly gestured toward women in STEM, the bulk of the coverage, especially the clips that got the most airtime, was stupid stuff. And okay, is that their fault? Is that the media's fault? It's both. It's both. And by the way, when we're talking about celebrity feminism, the only celebrity whose feminism, well, white celebrity, whose feminism I'm really down for, Jane Fonda. Hanoi Jane. You know why? Because she's risked things. She put her career on the line in the 60s. She was marginalized, blackballed in Hollywood. She used her name and her fame to bring attention to the fact that the Vietnam War was a joke. And since then, she's also used that visibility to take up tons of important causes. Another thing I think about with Jane Fonda is don't let that lady get an award. Don't let her get up on stage because she's going to shout out the blacks. She's going to talk about inequality. She's going to talk about climate change. That's what you do every single time. The fact that there was even space for stupid little quotes about fake eyelashes in space or glam in space. It's like, y'all don't even, we're not friends. We're not allies in the same fight. Let's be serious. So they got their little cover moment. They got to put on their admittedly cute blue spacesuits while Donald Trump and the Trump administration has gutted scientific and medical research. And they have specifically targeted that which would benefit what? Women and people of color. NASA laying off people, including its chief scientist, by the way. All of those gaps that we have been talking about since the girlboss feminism era, and honestly before, right? These conversations really start in the 90s. Nobody cares, or at least nobody in the federal government. The Blue Origin girlies didn't say a word. Not a word about reproductive rights, not a whisper about Head Start program cuts, not a word about the potential cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, childcare. Certainly nothing about Amazon's reported $1 million donation to Trump's inauguration fund. And honestly, that's what this all comes down to. It comes down to them being hamstrung by the allegiances or the good fences that Jeff Bezos is trying to maintain. That $2 billion contract Blue Origin just got. That's also why Jeff Bezos has destroyed the Washington Post. Oh, that used to be a good little paper, and it still does some good work, but ruined that paper's reputation. I don't know. This may be my second misogynistic comment of the day. Lauren Sanchez, why do I care? Why do I care who this lady is? She's a wag. I'm just be honest with you. Like, I actually think it's feminist of me to be like, I'm not impressed by you because you managed to cozy up to one of the richest men in the world. Like, that's not an achievement to me. Not in and of itself, no. I mean, congrats to you, but no. Vanity project. That's the phrase I was looking for earlier. Vanity project. Yes, they think we're supposed to be empowered by their little vanity projects, by their photo ops. Absolutely not. I thought Jessica Gross did a great write-up of this in the New York Times. She called whatever this was. Was it a PR stunt? Was it a business move? I don't know. She called it morally vacuous. And she's right. It can't be feminism if there's no ethical center. These moments are not neutral moments when you try to paint them as empowering steps for women or feminist or feminist adjacent, or it's like you could just do your thing. That's my thing. Rich lady's gonna rich lady. Don't call it something that it's not. You're trying to present it as something for all of us when it's just something for you. So you create a soft, glittering fog that distracts people from the real erosion that is happening underneath. For many women in this country and across the world, the ground is shaky. The ground is uneven as fuck. It is rocky. There are sinkholes. There are landmines that people are having to navigate every single day. People are being crushed. Women are being crushed by inflation, by the collapse of the state. Oh my God, that's the thing about neoliberalism. I heard Ezra Klein say this. Neoliberalism is not just about privatization. It's not just about propping up the private industry and businesses. It's about destroying the state, their capacity to offer care. Women are being crushed under the weight of rising authoritarianism, and this is what you offer. Ew. I love to dig into aesthetics, branding, and how colors work, and shapes and balance. Yeah, all of this is, we're always being sold on a persona, on the goodness of Lauren Sanchez. I actually kind of think we're being sold on the intelligence of Lauren Sanchez. I have read a couple of profiles about her. Well, were they profiles? They were little write-ups. I guess it's impressive that she was a TV host and She's a pilot. She and Jeff love to go flying, so she can't be a complete and utter dummy. But as far as I know, that lady's a wag. I also think it is about promoting the idea that Lauren Sanchez is more than a socialite. She's more than the lady who wore lingerie to Trump's inauguration. We're being sold, right? And that's an old thing. We've been here so many times before. We've been told that buying a lipstick, liberation. Buying Dove body wash, liberation. Buying Nike shoes, liberation. There is something to the idea, I don't like to call things radical acts, but self-confidence really might be radical. And why? Because confidence is political. And if you have confidence, you have the ability to resist coercive capitalism. Corporations don't work if people don't buy things. And for women, the way that you encourage them to buy things is by preying on their insecurities or by addressing them in their role as caretaker. What's an example of the latter? Choosy moms choose Jif. There's so many other examples of that. But we know consumption is not freedom. Now, this is a Western capitalism thing where your ability to purchase things get painted as your pathway to personhood. So the personhood part is being respected as a consumer because living in the world, everybody's going to have to purchase things. So are you being disrespected in that process? Are you being talked down to? Are you being ignored? There's a history of that in feminism. There's also a history of contending with that in Black liberation movements and the civil rights movement in the United States. Okay, but that is a different thing from buying this thing is liberation. In order to break down the two, you have to reckon with what Andy Zeisler calls symbolic liberation. It's the appearance of freedom without any material transformation. The tricky thing about symbolic liberation, stuff that's only about branding and increasing corporate sales, is it can actually actively work against you. One of the examples Andy Zeisler used was the marketing of Virginia Slims. You've come a long way, baby. And that's appealing directly to women's lib. There's an idea that smoking is masculine. And men don't want women to smoke because it evokes ideas of they're trying to be aggressive, they're trying to be masculine. And so we see women being imaged as smokers in advertisement and in film. And the women who do that are the women that are supposed to represent the strong women, the independent women, the women who cannot be controlled. So you bring a lot of generation of smokers, women who think that they are progressive. They think that they're going against the grain. And of course, knowing what we know now about smoking, their liberation was tied to a product that literally kills people. The consumption was literally leading to their own destruction. No power, no protection. That is why we have to be so skeptical of what Zeisler calls empowertizing. It's just prettied up overconsumption, which, we're in a time where people are rejecting overconsumption because they're broke, right? Like, people don't have money. And so it makes sense, right? Like, it's funny how not having money like you used to will clarify your politics. Ain't it funny? But yeah, I think people are also wisening up to that. I've been glad to see the discourse around this because it indicates to me that people have a much firmer grasp on what feminism is and what we use it for. There's a famous quote from Andrea Dworkin, I'm a bitter, angry feminist, not the fun kind or something like that. Not the fun kind really pops out at me. And you know what? Jessa Crispin, I interviewed her years ago. She wrote a book called Why I'm Not a Feminist, a Feminist Manifesto. It came out maybe about half a decade ago. But it's basically her doubling down on the idea that feminism is not supposed to be funny, ha-ha, laughs, games, jokes. Yes, we get it. We want to make revolution irresistible, as June Jordan would say, but it doesn't have to be pink, playful. boobies. It doesn't have to be wrapped in crystals and self-care language, not the real self-care language, not the actual Lord language, but the fake, like, I just need a break. Like, maybe working to secure the rights of yourself and all of the women and girls who come after you, maybe it's not going to be fun and maybe it's not going to look cute. And we see the girls just rabidly, aggressively rejecting the Blue Origin thing because I was just telling somebody the other day, I've been on the planet 36 years. I'm not sure I've ever seen the vibes be this bad. The vibes are bad. Were the vibes worse after Trump won the first time or worse now? I'm not sure. I think a part of the reason why the vibes are so bad now is because Congress has just decided to stop doing things and the speed that Donald Trump is moving with. Yeah. So it's like, girl, we have real problems. There's people dying. People are food insecure, housing insecure. People are worried about losing their jobs, worried about losing their government benefits. I think part of it is that escapism is cute. I've said this before too. Escapism is cute. I understand the value, but escapism is a distraction. And escapism can be a dangerous distraction. Oh my gosh, y'all. I think I just thought of something. No representation without redistribution. You know how in the Boston Tea Party, it was no taxation without representation? I just wrote down no representation without redistribution. I don't know. I think that's catchy. Lifestyle feminism, choice feminism, where you chose your choice, you chose it, it's great, everybody wins. We're done with that. And there's always a kind of delusion. I loved when Lauren Michelle Jackson, in that New Yorker piece that I read for y'all, she called it the relationship that we have with celebrity, a delusion. That kind of delusion, that facade, I think is slowly crumbling, except for in the most rabid parts of stan culture. The pretending is just not as fun, and that is a victory. I had some good times during the fun, frothy feminism era. Hey, there's some good events, some good gigs, some good merch, like it was cute. But that only works if your rent is paid, if your reproductive rights are intact, if your access to healthcare isn't under siege, if you're not worried about where your parents are going to live when they retire because they don't have any money in their investment accounts because the stock market has collapsed. Most of us, most women and girls, they don't live like that. And in fact, when you see women who are going to be fine no matter what, it inspires anger. It does the exact opposite thing of what they would want it to do. We don't feel like, oh yeah, this is great. We actually say, you can only do this because you don't have to worry about what's around the corner. Ooh, I just came up with another one. We want policy, not Pinterest. I'm sorry, I'm just coming up with the bangers. And I think the Gen Z girls, you know, of course, they're addicted to their phones like the rest of us. But that constant stream of information, having access to all of this knowledge, I think they're more against the empowerizing because they are more inherently skeptical of celebrity. They understand the machinations of parasociality. I think on one hand, there's a cohort more likely to fall victim to it. And then there's another cohort that are more aggressively and angrily against it. Broadly in America right now, there's an anti-institutional turn. Mistrust of things that we deem to be powerful, institutionalized is high. And so they're not at the anti-feminist level. Like the boys are doing anti-feminism. The girls are just like, get away from me, political corporate shill. And that's right. If feminism never costs you anything, if it never puts you at odds with your employer, your man, your platform, your audience. And sometimes feminism even puts you at odds with the government. If you've never lost anything for it, never put anything on the line. If your feminism doesn't call for redistribution, regulation, action, engagement within electoral politics and outside of it, it's not doing women any good. It's not for women if it doesn't do things for women. If you're not pitching in, get out of the way. If you're not here to help, step aside. People do not feel good. They don't even want to be told to feel good. I think with this kind of stuff, it's like the stop telling women to smile dynamic. Girl, don't tell me I'm supposed to feel good. We don't need any more role models. Well, I definitely don't. I'm 36. But the girls have the role models. They need help. They're being crushed under the weight of student debt. Look at those auto loan delinquencies. They're never going to be able to buy homes. Honestly, they're never going to be able to get most kinds of assets, to be honest. No shade. Hey, I didn't do it. I'm just saying, it's going to be a tough road ahead. People are just mad. And now that we can be mad and be skeptical, be annoyed, and there's not that compulsory, well, if a woman did it, it's feminist because a woman did it. We should just be happy that a woman did it. No. Feminism is a political project. It is collective. It is disruptive. Ooh, I've been meaning to go off on, if you can't handle a little chaos, don't call yourself a progressive. Now, there's a difference between the chaos that the Trump administration is currently invested in, which is chaos intended to increase anxiety, chaos intended to make people's lives worse, chaos intended to destroy state capacity. But a little bit of chaos, a little bit of disruption, disorder with very clear aims. That's the thing, right? I don't like chaos just for chaos's sake. I don't believe in just knocking shit over just to do it, which is very much the Trump administration's ethos. Progressive movement chaos should have clearly defined goals and plans of actions. That's what people can invest in, not the randomness. Look, I can end it by saying the girls are tired because the world is heavy. And what we want, what we desperately need, what we deserve is a feminism that can carry the weight. Well, that's it for this episode, you guys. Wanting more isn't asking for too much. Gayle King gave a little interview that was like, I was kind of surprised by the tone of the criticism, even from people I know. Girl, because how could you not read the room? All of these media savvy people, y'all been famous for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Read the room. That's just the bare minimum. That's it. That's all I have. All right, y'all. I will talk to you later. Bye.